Oh, mi dākia mi chante da woglake. Na pe tioza pelo. My name, Matthew WarBonnet. Kind of talk to you probably from the inside of my heart. I want to first of all to thank you for being here today and to acknowledge that we are in the homeland of the Tulalip Snohomish people, and we acknowledge that, and we appreciate and we raise our hands to them, and acknowledge their history and their life in this area. I want to talk today, and I haven't do this too much, but a while back, maybe a year or so ago, I was contacted by some folks to testify before Congress who was considering Bill 5444, which has to do with the reconciliation of Native Americans boarding school. And so they asked me to testify about my experience, my personal experiences in the mission school. I am 77 years old. When I was born in 1946, and in 1952, I was placed in the St. Francis Indian Mission School, which is located on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota. I was there for 10 months out of the year, went home for 2 months. I was there for the 8 years of my first 8 years of school. From there, I went to the Ogallala Community High School, which was on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. It was a government boarding school. I was there for the 4 years. Then from there, I went to the Haskell School up in Lawrence, Kansas. When I was there, it was a high school / vocational school. I stayed at Tinker Hall when I was there. I was asked to kind of talk maybe a little bit about the day-to-day live of the school and as a kid that you went through. So I'd kind of give you a little overview. First, it was a Catholic school, Roman Catholic school, run by the Jesuits. SJ is the Society of Jesus People. Here a while back, I had contacted the diocese over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, maybe 8-10 years ago. To talk about this with them. And they sent a father out to meet me here at the Sacred Heart School over there in North Everett. When he came into the room, I recognized him right away. I said, "You are Father Murs?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "I remember you." I said, "When I was in the first grade," I said, "you were fist fighting when a high school boy, Thomas Whitehat, right there in front of the boys' room." And he says, "No, that wasn't me. You're wrong." So that kind of told me the way our talk was going to go. So in that time, during that discussion, he says to me, he says, you know, we weren't fathers, we weren't priests. I said, but we called you father. And so that's what I'm calling this talk today, is we called you father. So when I was 6 years old, I went to that school for those first 8 years. First night I was there, of course, you get to go to the dormitory with the first 4 grades all in one dormitory, the 4th to 8th grade in one dormitory, and the high school boys in one. I think there was like maybe 400 boys in these different grades, and then on the girls' side it was the same. I've never been on that girls' side, so I don't know what their makeup was and how they slept and stuff like that. But for us, it was that way, okay? So that first night, I remember a lot of the kids were kind of crying, you know, lonesome for their house, their home. And sometimes Father would come out of his room and he would pick up a boy out of the bed, 6 years old, out of the bed, and swat him, maybe 4 or 5 times. And when you're 6 years old, you see that, you kind of keep things inside there. You stop crying and don't want to make too much noise. So you get up early in the morning at 5:30, I think it was, and you go downstairs and you line up. All the kids had a place to line up. 1st grade, 2nd grade, all the way to 6th grade, 7th, 8th grade, high school. All had their places to line up. Then you march off to Mass. Every morning, 7 days a week, you went to Mass. And so you go to Mass for maybe those first 6 days, Monday through Saturday, maybe 45 minutes, church. Then you march over to dining hall and you pray before you eat. And after you eat, you pray again. And they march off to the boys' room, boys' building, and then line up and you go to your classes. And that's kind of how it started every morning. And on Sundays, it was high Mass on Sundays. So you get all the altar boys, you know, coming and all of that. Yeah. So in the daytime in the school, you took catechism, was #1 class. And then I was, because the church was always done in Latin, you learn Latin. And so you kind of say, first thing you learn is that Dominus Vobiscus et tu spiritual tutuo. Those kinds of Latin things, you see, kind of stick in your mind. So as the years go on, you learn from English to Latin and to Spanish. So by the time you're 7th grade or thereabout, you had those kind of language. But in that time, not one word of Lakota. My family, my mom and my dad, were Lakota speakers. My grandma, my grandpa, all of them, aunts and uncles, were all Lakota speakers. And I'm assuming that before I went to the school, I was a Lakota speaker. All I know is when I got out of the school, I had a hard time understanding my mom and my dad when they spoke that. And since then, it's been how I've been working on getting that language back, you see. I still can't speak the way they speak, the old folks. You see, I can understand, but I can't speak that way they do. Kind of learned in a modern way, I would think, you see. So, when you're like in the second grade, maybe third grade, you're all given jobs to do in the mission school. I don't think I could use the names so much of other students, but I and another student, we were in charge of the coal room, where we would fill up 5-gallon buckets of coal and then carry it over to the hopper. And then we would fill the hopper every night. And we did that probably for 5 years, something like that. Every night we would fill up the hopper with coal. And that hopper would feed in, and an auger would feed into a furnace. And the furnace would heat up water, and the water would be pushed through to the steam lines into the big steam heaters that they had, you know. So we did that for 4 or 5 years or however long. Also, outside in the playroom, the building was a shoe making place. A lot of the kids went over there to do shoes, where they would have places where they made shoes. You can always tell that what kind of shoe you had, because as you walk through the snow, you know, you had the tread of the tire on the bottom of your shoe, you know, so you left that kind of trail. But boy, those things were cold, you know. Those things were really cold. And also I had a job in the bakery, where we did baking for the kids, all the whole school, you know, the bread and things like that, and buns and things like that. So I did that for a few years. And also, we would wash the dishes of the priest. In one building was the Father's building, we called it. And going into the back way underneath was the bakery. And going up to the top was the pantry, I guess. And that's where you wash the dishes. And they had this little place where they would shove the trays through, and you would take and you would wash what they came. Sometimes that was kind of a good way too, because a lot of times they would leave food on their plate, you know, maybe a hamburger or pork chop or something like that you would take, and you know, because I never had any meat at the school. On Sundays we had bologna sandwich in the evening. Sunday morning we had cornflake. Other than that, pretty much had like yellow mush, white mush, that types of things. You know, so we're always hungry. That's what I remember most. And a lot of times when you went to the church in the morning time, a lot of the kids would pass out. I did that a few times myself, you know, and just fall over, faint. And I never figured out why. I think it's because you were just hungry, you know. So a lot of times corporal punishment was kind of the norm there. So you did everything you can to not to do that, you know, to just kind of stay out of their way, you know. So as you got a little older, maybe the second grade or third grade, you know, they kind of moved from this. to this razor strap they would hit us with. This became my friend, this razor strap. It had taught me not to feel. You know, I remember one time me and my friend, they put us both in the infirmary, hitting us with this. I think I was maybe third grade. I think by then I was maybe 8 years old, you know, and like that. That's how they did that. But we went to church every morning. So I guess, you know, I would have to say Father D. I won't say their name. I would just identify them by their first initial. You know, Father D, he likes to hurt you. I mean, even when you're a little kid, you can tell when somebody likes to hurt you. You know, it wasn't like the others that, you know, that maybe hit you, but it was a different look in their eye. You know, Father D, he liked that. And out in the playground, he would have a little room out there, a little building, one room place. Everybody avoided that place. Sometimes, though, you'll be going by and he'll call you, and you go over there and, you know, he'd go like that on your shoulder here, and if you fell to your knees, you know, he kind of smiled. Is what he did, you know. Then we had Father M. Father M, he liked to shoot gun. Sometimes he'll take your gun and take your kids out, 4 or 5 of you at a time, take you across the pasture into another pasture, and then he'd pull out his gun and he'd shoot like that. And he'd load it up again and he'd shoot again. See, it wasn't until years later that I maybe figured something out about that. Yeah, I knew what he was doing to me, you see. And I knew when he shot that gun, you know, how I got afraid of that. But years later, I started thinking about those other kids that he took us with. Maybe he was doing that to all of us, you see. That's what I think, you see. So, and when you get to be like maybe 5th, 6th grade, or even 4th grade, Father D used a cattle prod on us. We didn't know what that was. When I was in high school, lived in Pine Ridge, a man that worked up in White Clay, I'd asked one time for help to round up his cows. And so I and my brother went and helped him to work for that day. And we were going to run these cows through the chute, and he was going to vaccinate them or whatever and this one cow stopped and wouldn't move. So he went to his truck and he pulled that out. Both my brother and I, we must have reacted a certain way, because he said, "What is it? What is the matter with you guys?" And he said, "You know what, you've seen it?" "Yeah." He said, "They used those on us in the mission school." And he got so mad. He got so angry. He said, "Those sons of bitches used this on you in the school?" Yeah. And that's when he told us what those were, cattle prod. And he went over to that cow and he shocked that cow and it took off. So those cannon pods were like what now they call tasers, but they were used on cows at that time. So one of the Father D, he kind of liked to use that, you know. Father L, he like to hit you, and then he rub something on your butt, like he's gonna make it better. I don't know what he was doing back there, but you know. I'll tell you, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, whatever it might be, you know. So you go to class and you learn the Latin and you go to the church and you know the Latin there. Every Thursday in the mission school, you went to confession. So all the kids would go in the confession one at a time. But after a while, you know, you kind of run out of sins, you know. So then you kind of make them up, you know. One day you go in and you make them up. And next time you go back, you confess that you made the last ones up, you know, and like that. So, but it was always that way. And some of the kids were pre-altar boys, and the father would give them wine back there when church was over. And way in the back, from the boys' building, just way over that way, Father Perry had a greenhouse, a place where they grew a bunch of fruits, salads, and like that. So boys used to go over there and roll smoke cigarette, bowl them, and Brother Perry would light his pipe and he'd smoke with all the kids and be smoking. I often wondered why he did that. But anyway, I think that's where the priest got all his salads and stuff from there, right there. But I kind of want to tell you a little bit about my family too. And that's my grandpa, Joseph WarBonnet. He's a Shoshongo, live on the government agency Rosebud, South Dakota. Okay. He was assigned to live in the Bad Nation area of the Rosebud Reservation, as did a lot of Jewish by people. So that's my grandpa. I found this picture a long time ago. I always kind of kept it. And that's my dad, Matthew WarBonnet Sr. A very, very good man, very good. I love this man, I still do to this day, you know. But when he was 2 years old, he ran away from the school there too. And he froze his toes off in the winter time. And in the end of it, and that's what killed him, when he died. Gangrene, his leg or his toes, his foot broke open and gangrene set in. And that's where he died. He was a very, very well respected and loved person. People come from a long way just to consult with him and to visit with him. And that's my mom, Julia Swallow. She and my dad married almost 50 years, I believe. She too went to that mission school when she was a little girl. This is a picture of my mom and her classmates. The one sitting to the right of that nun, that's my mom. Them's all of us that went to the mission school, all 10 of us kids. I'm the one sticking his head out way on that end. Everybody says he's the cute one, but nobody says that with me. I like to talk a little bit about my brothers and sisters. My oldest sister there, Beverly, she finished the school, got married, and had 6, 7 children. They all grown up. Her husband and brother-in-law had passed on years ago. And she raised those kids the best she could. They became very good citizens, very good people. My second oldest sister, she became a nurse and married a guy from Standing Rock named Tony White Mountain, and they had 8 children. They raised those children in a good way. My next sister was Tiny. I'll tell you this story about Tiny. When she was born in the hospital at Rosebud, doctor come and see my mom and said the baby was dead. And my mom cried for that baby. No, she's not. She called, no. So they issued death certificate and all of that. Later that evening, some folks were working in the hospital. They were down in the area where they keep bodies and heard this baby cry. And they went and opened up that drawer, and that was my sister. She was in there crying. So they took her and put her back to my mom. She's since that time, very special to us. She kind of get a lot of confusion of numbers, and things like that. She grew to have 3 children, married. Now she kind of went to a spirit journey a while back, as well as my sister, My oldest brother, Bow Wow, we call him, his name is Gene. Call him Bow Wow because way back in the early 50s, 60s, the tribe, they're having a big problem with dogs, too many dogs. So they wanted to do something, and so they had a little money and they put together to hire a dog catcher. Well, my brother applied for that, so he became the reservation dog catcher. And so they gave him this little pickup to drive around. And so when he got a dog, he'd throw it on that pickup, but the dog just jumped right off. And on the reservation, there's 2 things you don't mess with. You do not mess with grandma's grandchildren or grandma's dogs. So they would see him coming, the little guys. Grandma, here comes that Bow Wow, here comes that Bow Wow. So they start calling him Bow Wow. And so that's how he got his name. And later on, he became a reservation police officer for the government. And they all called him Bow Wow. Everybody, the whole reservation knew him as Bow Wow. My next brother to him is Joe. He served in the Navy. He has since gone on his spirit journey. And my next brother to him is Jim. And he served, and he went on his spirit journey here recently. And then there was me. I'd like to take this time to tell you a little story about myself, my brother Jim, and my older brother Bow Wow. And I want to preface this by saying that I tried to check this out and I could not find any information. But I had my ears cut off when I was little, both my ears. My brother Jim had one ear cut off. My older brother Bow Wow had the other side ear cut off. I remember going to the IHS when I was little, them checking my ears and then always giving me shots, always. And then going to the hospital in Rapid City and having them operate. And a doctor by the name of Korn did the operation. But as I got older, I began to realize that hospitals and doctors don't do this stuff for free. I think IHS might have paid them. I've been trying to find out this information. I can't. I don't know why. But I sometimes think about when the government infected a lot of the black soldiers with the syphilis disease so they can follow their medical process throughout their lifetimes. And it was only here recently that 2 of those survivors from that experiment of syphilis, was recognized by the government, what they did. I'm not saying that's not the case, but I'm just saying that, I don't remember ever having problems before. And I've had problems with my ears ever since. I know my brother Jim also and my brother Bow Wow. My brother Joe never had any problem. He went to the Navy during the Vietnam thing. You see, he didn't have no operation. So that's what I know, you see. Now I had my sister Judy and my sister Janet and Venus. Janet and the youngest one there, they married these 2 guys from Pine Ridge called Sierra, Valentino, Sierra, and Padlock. Okay. They were good people. They were good to, the family. They did the best. They raised the family good and all of that. But I used to tell this story that got them kind of mad at me. I used to say that in the 60s when President Kennedy made that program VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America, my sister volunteered for that VISTA, and they sent them to Pine Ridge. So they found these 2. They brought them back to Rosebud and saved them. So my brother-in-law didn't like that too good. I told that several times, and one time my brother-in-law says in public, he says, if my brother-in-law tells that story one more time, I'm going to give his sisters back to him. Since they're gone now, so I can feel free to tell that story. But But that's been my family that's been to the mission school. And they try to do the best they can after they got out. I tried to raise my kids a good way. I have my youngest son, Nathaniel, who lives in New York. He's doing a good thing, taking responsibility for his life. I have my oldest son, Jody, who served in the Marines during that Gulf War where we went to war for Saddam Hussein in Kuwait. And there was munitions that were blew up, chemicals got into him. So he's kind of been 100% disabled, now. My oldest daughter, Nora, got her nurse's degree, and for the last 20, 25 years have been running the dialysis program in Pine Ridge. My other daughter, Marie, served 20 years in the Army and now working at the VA hospital in Portland. And my youngest son, Matthew, who think he's as cute as me, but he's not. He's out here with us. He worked for a lot of years with Microsoft and now doing some medical work with something. I'm not exactly sure what he does. All I know is he won't lend me $10, And so he has a place out here in South Everett where he's married now for about 20-some years, I believe, and raising my grandson, who just is now graduating 8th grade, you see. There are many kids that went into the mission school that came out to be productive leaders in their communities. Myself and one of the guys I went to the school with were one of several that were served on the tribal council in Rosebud for a number of years. Sometime he and I would talk about the mission school. We didn't want to talk about it too much because what will come out. But we understood what many of us were going through. All the abuse, the self-abuse, the abuse of your family, of your community. Finally, a lot of them just ended it. We shared that pain with them. That's why I was very reluctant to talk about these things. When I first started talking this way, I would be awake at night all alone. I would cry because I would remember all those kids I went to school with. I would hurt for them. I would hurt for myself, and I still do. They didn't seem to have a chance to grow. When you have 800 children, boys and girls, in a school, 1 year, and I witnessed to what happened to us. And you have that school functioning for 100 years. And you don't need to wonder why our reservation and our people are the way they are. that trauma goes from generation to generation to generation. Our family, myself and all my children, my children and my siblings' children, never heard this story. It's the first time I'm talking about it. But I did that because this truth needs to be told. Our children, our grandchildren need to know what happened. Why their grandparents and their parents are the way they are. They need to know that truth. That is why I'm hoping that the National Native Boarding Schools Association will consolidate and get this history together. So this history can be consolidated and put into one place. So our children and our grandchildren know that history. I have a lot of appreciation for the Tulalip that offered this to me. They gave me some CDs from my last talk that I distributed to my family back home. Now their children, their grandchildren, begin to see what's going on. They were asking, "Grandma, did that really happen?" "Yes," she said. Because I'm 77 years old, and this truth is coming out. And I hope that it offers a better path for our grandchildren. And the truth of it is there. The government, maybe one day, that is the boys' building of the mission school that I went to, St. Francis. When St. Francis was incorporated by the Catholic Church, that was the land and the Teospae of the WarBonnet Society. When that was set up, you never heard about the WarBonnet Society that resided there. People say, you should heal. The truth in healing. The truth should work both ways, and the healing should work both ways. The church needs to acknowledge what it's did. They need to accept responsibility for what it did to the hundreds and the thousands of children that are still suffering today for what it did. They need to start healing as well. And like me, that healing starts with the truth. Not an apology. You go back to them and you work with them. When that man came from Milwaukee and he asked me straight out, "What do you want? What do you want?" I told him that's what I wanted. I wanted the church to admit to what it did. I wanted them to acknowledge the harm that it did. I wanted them to go to our people, to go to our children and our grandchildren and say to them, when your father, your mother, your grandfather, your grandma, and them came to us, they were pure spirit. And what we did to them we need for you to admit that, to go back to them and to sit down with them and to acknowledge what you did. And then to start working with them to try to help heal them. If you do that, I will come back and work for you. That was 10 years ago. I have not heard from him. Just like he said to me, "Oh, you're mistaken. That wasn't me." We call you Father. In South Dakota, you had the Holy Rosary Mission. You had the Marty Mission. You had the Stephan Mission. You had St. Joseph Mission. You had Flandreau Indian School. You had the Ogallala Community High School. These were government. Others were mission schools run by the Catholic Church. And that's how they run them. What does a young man do when he keeps things to himself? And he was used like a woman by priest. What pain does he carry with him? When in our society, you are a warrior. You are a warrior man. And you're used that way. Start drinking. The rage builds up. You start abusing yourself. When I was in the mission school, 2nd grade, they put gloves on you, boxing gloves. You box other kids. When you get to be 6th grade, 7th grade, you're good at it. And when you get out of high school, you run across one, maybe two of these sons of bitches. And you hurt them. You hurt them good. But you don't care because they didn't care. I try to live the way my dad taught me. A very spiritual, a very traditional manner. And that was to accept responsibility for my walk. Every day I would walk. And I had to accept the responsibility for my actions, what I did. I find it hard for me, even today, to talk this way about the mission school. I had to accept the responsibility for how I react to that. And in that responsibility is the spirituality that we all search for. That is how I see things. That is the inside of the church at the mission school. The main, I guess, tabernacle area. The one on the right was a smaller one on the left was a smaller one. Hundreds and thousands of dollars were spent on that church. Stained glass windows along both sides. We were hungry when we went to that church. Many of us fainted when we went to that church. But we learned that God loved us. I had my first education class in there on sex. Priest took us boys in there, sat us on that first row, talked to us about sex education. Bunch of young kids. Larry left-hand row was sitting next to me. We were young, talk hard. He came out and he started talking about this and marriage and that. We were saying, get to the best part. Finally he did. He said, sex. Oh, all those little boys, we just sat up and paid attention. He said, sex is like eating steak and eggs. You eat steak and eggs every day for a while, that's all you could get tired of it. And he left. I elbowed Larry. I said, what's steak? He said, I don't know. But I remember that was our sex education there. But I do want people to know, and I say this till the day I go, this has never and ever been an attack about religion. This has been a talk about people who do those kinds of things to children, who beat children. This is what this is about. It's never about religion. My mother and my father were strong and devout Catholics. They had hymns that were given to them that had both English and Lakota hymns in them. They belonged to the St. Joseph and St. Mary Society. Never been about religion. It's been about the people that did those things to children. And we want the Catholic Church to acknowledge that. Those are the remaining members of my family. On the far that way is my brother Joe. He traveled to the spirit world in the last couple of years. Have my 3 sisters and my older brother and myself. But I want to say this, and again, in appreciation to Tulalip for allowing me to do this. This CD, or whatever it is their responsibility, whatever they're going to do with that. They will, of course, give me a copy of it, but I'll give it over to them, whatever they're going to do with it. When Secretary Holland was here a couple months ago, I gave testimony while she was here about these things. I gave her a copy of that CD that I've sent to my brothers and my sisters and my family. And I gave her a copy of the 1950 graduate class of the St. Francis Indian Mission that listed all the kids by name and by grade to the 12th grade, both girls and boys. Because somehow or another, the church seems to lose records. But the names that were there in the 50s are names that are familiar today that live on the Rosebud, live in the WarBonnet Society grounds. I guess somebody wants to ask a question, but as long as they're not hard questions, I'll try to answer. Yes?
Do you also were interned during World War II. And one of the things I saw in California was we had a project where the grandchildren were able to interview the grandparents, and they wrote these beautiful stories, and they made a museum out of that so that we would remember. So is there some kind of intergenerational thing that could be funded by the government?
Well, with the education that's happening across Indian country today, recently, well, really in the last few years, there's no doubt in my mind that as time goes on, there's going to be a lot of this gathering of information and telling of, true stories and bringing it, bringing it out. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that all the negative that we hear about Indian country, okay, there was still a great number of Native people living in those communities that have not, given way to that type of environment, that struggle every day to bring up their children, to maintain their culture, their language, and their tradition, and doing it in tremendous odds. You got 85% unemployment on the reservations. People are trying to struggle every day to maintain their children. In the meantime, kids are seeing what they see on TV, and they're thinking, geez, I should have that. I should be there. I should be doing that. So the struggle goes on. But there are a tremendous amount of people, in those environments that are doing the best they can with what they got, and they're bringing up very respectful children.
Did your parents know about your abuse and your brothers and sisters?
When I was in high school at Pine Ridge, I think I was a sophomore in high school, and a bunch of the guys were standing around talking, and we all take pride in our service people, guys in our family that went to service. And I brought up my dad. I said, my dad was in the Army, and he was captured, and every day the enemy tortured him, and they cut off one toe at it every day until all his toes were gone. One of the guys who was my cousin said, no, that's not right. That didn't happen to your dad. You bet you it did. Calling my dad a liar, so we got in a little tussle there, over that. Went home, my mom said, what happened to you, son? So I told her, and she yelled at my dad, Matthew, you better get in here and tell your son what happened to your toes. And he's fighting people over them. That was the first time I heard about it. My parents didn't talk about it. Myself and my siblings that went to that school, we never talked about it. This is the first time that I'm up here talking about it, and that I sent them that CD. And I'm going to tell you something. I call my sisters, and I say something to them that I've never said in years. I say, I love you. Now it's becoming a habit to say that to them. I say that to my kids. I love you. Never said that before. It's not a hard thing to say. So you heard about Father D, Father M, Father all of these, Father R, Father L. As boys, we used to go out to the canyons And daytime, we made slings. We'd take the shoelaces off of our shoes, cut the tongue out of our shoes, punch holes in them, tie them together, and put a rock, and we were good at that. I never wanted one, but one time Father D knocked me down. I got a scar on my head right here. And I hit the pavement. He walked off. One of the boys turned me over and a lot of blood. So he took off his t-shirt and put it on me. When he was going to leave, and I took my t-shirt off and gave it to him because I didn't want him to get in trouble because of the t-shirt. So I took the bloody t-shirt and put it on. Got one of these when I went back. So we learned to do that. And we go out to the canyons and take a lot of the vines from the wild grapes that grew, fry them out, make a slip knot on them, take a piece of stick, knock them into the ground, and put that over a rabbit hole. Go off and play. Maybe you put 6, 8 of them, go off and play. A couple hours, come back, and you always get a rabbit, either going into the hole or coming out. Slip knot to get around their neck. Then we take them, start a little fire, tear off their hide, cook up a rabbit. So there was many things that kids used to do to keep themselves entertained. We have jump rope contests, sometimes last for days. Hoey Hatton was a good one. That guy could jump rope for 2 days without stopping. The only time he stopped was when he had to go bathroom or when it was time to go eat or go to church or whatever on the weekend. He'd be jumping rope all the time. You know, nobody could beat him. Have marble games, you know, great big circle like that. Even though there were 4 or 5 marbles in there, you know, people played marbles for a long time. You know, throw sticks at each other. And every fall, September, into September, October, we come and we pick potatoes. In springtime, around Easter, we planted 80 acres worth of spuds out here. In the fall time, we'd come out and we'd pick them. Take a stick. You run across a potato that was kind of mushy. Put it on that stick. You see somebody over there that you didn't like too well. Yeah, so you put all the potatoes in a little sack, keep on going. The high school boys come behind you, they'd pick up the sack, put them on the truck, and off to a great big underground, I guess, I don't know what it was called, but that's where you put all the potatoes. Put them there, and that's what you had for the winter time, potatoes. You know, yeah, so there was those kinds of things to do, you know. And every June, parents would come, pick up the kids, go home. Sometimes you ran away from school. I recall one time I ran away with 2 or 3 other kids. We got out so far and we split up. 2 went this way and went this way. Well, they caught 3 of us. And of course, you get this. One day didn't, and we got home. You know, all winter, you know, we were happy he got home. sometime when mom, dad used to come pick the kids up. I saw his parents down here, and they were talking to a priest. And I saw his mother cry. His dad walked around. They didn't know. So there was a lot of stuff like that. But I'm 77 years old. I'm glad to have talked like this for a while. I want to leave this part of the history, you know, for our grandchildren and for future generations. So they'll know about my grandpa, Matthew WarBonnet, about my mom and dad, Matt and Julian WarBonnet, about me and my brothers and sisters, about our families. But what I would like to do, when I was in the school, you know, I did talk to my dad one time about why people do those things, you know. And he kind of told me, he says, he told me a song, you know, about this. And he says, you have the power to decide how you're going to live. Nobody else has that power. You have that power. You can decide to live it in a good way, in the way the Creator wanted you to live. Or you can go a different way. You can recognize the blessings that the Creator has given you and take those inside you, and those will make you strong. So he gave me the song that when I was in that school, I would sing the song. In the morning time, every day, even though you couldn't do it in the open. In my mind, in my heart, every morning, I would sing this song. And what the song simply says, in taking that power of how we're going to live, it says simply, friend, the dawn has arrived, I live again. That simple.